Welcome to West Country Wanderings. Welcome to the village of Hartpury, which lies in Gloucestershire, not that far from the Worcestershire border. A few things to show you around here, all really interesting, including this tithe barn here. So I hope you can join me for a little tour around this village. Now the tithe barn here is actually 161 feet long. What's that in proper money? I'll put that in below, what it is actually in metres. But the length of it actually makes it longer and bigger than the tithe barns across the border at neighbouring Worcestershire, Breedon, just a few miles away from here, and also the one at Froster, also in Gloucestershire. It was built by the Diocese of Gloucester as a storage barn in the 14th century, and it was serviced by the monks because there was a monastery hereabouts in Hartpury. The other thing that's really striking about this, it has two fascinating finials. One on the top there, which is a Welsh dragon, and that's actually facing in the English direction, so that is towards the River Severn in that direction, but we're obviously in Gloucestershire, so we're currently in England. But the one that way, which is facing in the direction of Wales, has an English lion. Now, Hartpury is a fascinating place, and there is some evidence to show that King Canute may have come here. It's one of the oldest parts of Gloucestershire in terms of settlements. If you watch my videos regularly, you may remember when I did the special one on Gloucester, I started that video at a church called St Mary de Lode, which is possibly the oldest Christian church in the kingdom. And in that I was shown a Roman mosaic villa that was built. A new present-day church, which is also 14th century, was built on top of it. We have a similar situation here, and this church here has connections to the one at St Mary de Lode in Gloucester. So yes, there was a monastery here, but there's lots of other things as well, including a chapel back there, which we'll have a look at shortly. But Hartpury is actually famous for something else, which I'll show you at the end of the video. Now behind me here in the graveyard are these graves here, and mortal remains of Dominican nuns and two chaplains. And what's strange about that is that they were Catholic, and obviously we're here in a Church of England church, obviously because it was post-Protestant phase, Henry VIII and all that, it became English Church of England church. So that's quite unusual, and the reason for that is that the Dominican friar was actually set up in France, and they came here to this part of Gloucestershire to seek shelter, and they lived in the neighbouring manor house. In 1830 the Dominican nuns had this chapel built here, which is a Dominican chapel right next to the Church of England church here in Hartpury. Quite an unusual situation. Now from this position behind me you can actually see the layout. So you've got the church behind me, then you've got the chapel, and behind that is Hartpury Court. Both the chapel and the court though are now in private ownership, although I do think that the chapel is currently used as like a village hall meeting place for the local villagers here. If you're probably thinking there's not many other houses around, that's because the centre of Hartpury lies on the other road. It lies on the Roman road, the 417, that's the road that goes up in the direction of Leominster in Herefordshire, a place we've been to previously, of course, here on West Country Wanderings. And that's where the settlement is, but the church here and all these older buildings, medieval buildings, about 1.5 miles away from the present day centre of the village. And from this angle you get another great view of that enormous tithe barn there, which has got buttresses on it. I don't know if they were put there originally or not, but it's certainly an impressive sight. But as I say, it's private, so I can't go inside it to show you. Although the one at neighbouring Ashleworth, which is just about 1 mile or so away, which is owned by the National Trust, is open to the general public on certain days. Now, why would the Diocese of Gloucester decide to build a monastery here, some few miles north of the city itself? Well, the reason for that, the land here is flat, it's very fertile, it's also close to the River Severn, not that far away from good old Sabrina as well, so it's convenient for that. Prime agricultural land. But that's not the only thing that was done here. Now, what I'm going to show you later wasn't actually from here originally. It was from another Gloucestershire town called Nailsworth, now more famous as a wool town. Now, of course, it's celebrity central, isn't it, in that area, a few miles to the south of Stroud. And The object that I will show you was found in the police station of Nailsworth in the 1950s, and the Chief Constable was insistent that it was kept and preserved. It was then moved to Hartbury College, which is adjacent to the village here, a huge agricultural college, important place in the three counties of Herefordshire, Worcestershire and Gloucestershire for training up people that want to work in the agricultural community. It was placed there and then it was moved to its current place here in 2002. What am I talking about? Well, watch on the video and I'll show you. Now the church here at Hartbury has a fantastic 14th century wooden porch, absolutely magnificent. Let's just have a closer look at that before. See if I can enter the church and show you inside of it. The church here at Hartbury is called St Mary the Virgin. The original church was built from the Diocese of Gloucester, from what is now Gloucester Cathedral, of course, but there was prior to that an abbey at Gloucester, which I mentioned in my 7-way video. And the one here was actually modified after the 14th century, some Victorian additions to it. But it still remains a magnificent building, some wonderful secrets of its own. We have some beautiful stained glass here. This one was actually dedicated in memory of the long-serving reader Major Philip Thornton, and it was put in place in 2000. And when you look towards the front of the church, with your back to the altar, you can see the age of the windows here. The shape of that window above the main entrance door. Here we have a blocked up entrance. I wonder where that once led to. There's also a fascinating churchyard here at Hartbury Church, St Mary the Virgin, and lots of the gravestones warrant a closer inspection, showing the stonemason's art. One of the oldest gravestones in Hartbury Churchyard is this one, in memory of Thomas Sloper, a parish gent, and it's dated 1703 for his wife, I do believe, and it's also dated September of 1676. Certainly the oldest one I've seen. Obviously that's been restored and remarked with the wording so we can see it clearly, but incredible. Just show you the top of it. On the opposite side of the tombstone it says, near to this lies the body of Mary Sloper, daughter of the, and I can't read what that says, F-A-Y-D, said, presumably that reads, said Thomas Sloper and Joanne, his wife. The main draw to Hartbury Churchyard, though, isn't so much the church or indeed the gravestones, it's this to my right. It's the bee shelter. This is an incredible piece of work. It was made by one Paul Tuffley, a skilled stonemason who lived in Avening, just outside the town of Nailsworth. And as I say, it was found in Nailsworth's police station. The story behind it is that Nailsworth police station was about to undergo some restoration and renovation, expansion I think as well. When the builders were surveying the work that needed to be done, they found this. Now thankfully it wasn't destroyed, and it's amazing that it's still in its original state, although it has undergone a lot of conservation and restoration. It was moved from Nailsworth to Hartbury College, as I say, which is just about a quarter of a mile where I am here in the churchyard. And then Hartbury College ran out of room when that was expanding. As I say, it's a large agricultural college. It was moved here in 2002, and I think they got a bit of a National Lottery Heritage grant to move it very, very gingerly and carefully and restore it again in its new state here in Hartbury Churchyard. What a magnificent one it is. Let's just have a closer look at it now. Now, Paul Tuffley was actually a specialist in beekeeping stonemasonry. I just didn't admit that there was actually such a thing, but yes, there was. He was also a senior quarry master, and the stone that this comes from, this limestone stone, comes from, well, a couple of quarries. One was Ball's Green Quarry, which is long since closed now, and also another quarry at Minchinhampton, near the town of Stroud. It was saved by volunteers of the Gloucestershire Beekeeping Association in the 1950s, and again they sought help from them when it was moved here to its current location in Hartbury Churchyard. Now, I don't profess to know a lot about beekeeping at all, really don't know much about it, but I do know that these spaces here and what they're for are called scalps, and that would be where the bees would make their hive. And I think originally they were made out of like a string, and later on they were made out of hay. And incredibly, this whole thing could actually hold some 840,000 bees. Wow, I can imagine the buzz that would be if that was currently filled right up with bees. Think how much honey it would be making as well. There is a mystery surrounding this bee shelter, though we don't actually know for whom or for where Paul Tuffley made this enormous shelter. Unfortunately, he ran into financial difficulties and his home near Nailsworth had to be remortgaged. He later moved to Paddington in London, which became a centre for the stonemason's trade. Now, you may notice that some of the limestone actually comes with slightly different colours. Well, they used several different quarries. One was called Hampton Quarry, Minchinhampton, and the other one was called Crane. But some of the limestone actually came from a quarry near Painswick, also in the Cotswolds. There is a quarry there now. I think it's called Catsbrain. I remember seeing it doing the Cotswold Way. But yeah, so it was a mixture of different quarries, hence the slightly different hues of the stone. Now, although the bee shelter wasn't actually manufactured for its location here at Hartbury, there is a long association between Hartbury and beekeeping. And in the Doomsday Book, it says that Hartbury Parish gave 12 cestus, that's around about £24 in weight of honey, to King Edward, presumably as some kind of payment for taxes and fees. Apart from bees, the other thing that Hartbury is famous for is its orchards. There's lots of orchards around here, most famously for growing pears. And it has its own pear called the Hartbury pear, which I think among pear growers is a much favoured variety. You can get round to some of them to have a look, but unfortunately I won't have time to do that today. But it is a fascinating place. Has one more treasure to show us, and I'll need to change my lens to enable me to show it to you, because it is in private property and it's a little bit off the main road. I'll see if I can get some shots of it and tell you a little bit about it now. And there's the magnificent Hartbury Mill, complete with its water wheel, but it is in private ownership, so I can't get closer access. So I'm using a telephoto lens, so it might be slightly wobblier than normal, the footage, but gives you an indication and look at what it looks like. I don't know the date of it though, probably 18th century, maybe older. If I can find out the date of Hartbury Mill, I'll put that in below. Now you get a better angle from it this side. Sorry, it's a very windy day as well, but let's see if I can take some photographs on it. There is like a development behind it which is industrial use now. I think it's just some small buildings and an extended property onto a large barn, but you can certainly see extensive mill here and the mill site, and with a leat running alongside it in the stream, and also a large pond there. So that's it for today here from the village of Hartbury in Gloucestershire. Hope you enjoyed the tour, the church, the tithe barn and the mill, as well as that amazing bee shelter. Till next time, take care of yourselves. Hope to see you on the channel again very soon. All the best for now. Cheers now. Bye bye.